It's a beautiful Monday morning in the city of Lagos, southwest Nigeria. My name is Damola Ogunshaki, and this morning I'll be reviewing the front pages of the dailies and also analyzing them. Now let's move straight to the front pages this morning, and of course I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with health. Nigeria needs 12,000 doctors annually. That's coming from MDCAN. It will take Nigeria 25 years to meet ideal target of 333,334. That's coming from Nigerian Medical Association. Adds it's one doctor to 8,000 Nigerians now. Government should address reasons doctors are leaving. That's coming from NAD. Declare state of emergency in health sector. Medical Guild is saying that one. You can see that story on page 5. Inside the Vanguard newspaper on the finance segment, we have manufacturers' expenditure on alternative power surges 110%. 67.8 billion naira spent in first half of 2022, up from 32.2 billion naira same period last year. Manufacturing output growth down from 5.8% in first quarter to 3.0%. Demand further investment in power and commit to adding 10,000 MW to current capacity. You can see that story inside Vanguard newspaper. On page 22, we have security, education, key to poverty reduction. That's coming from ATIKU and KWANKWASO. NDPHC, vandals destroy 6 transmission towers, Q1 in Rivers. 2023, Obidati, NNPP, ADP, flay Dogara over group's adoption of ATIKU. PDP crisis, ATIKU sets up committee to meet G5 and BK group. Attempt to blackmail community volunteer guards will fail. That's coming from Benue government. You can see those stories on pages 9, 34 and 13. Stories above, we have Zenith Bank wins Bank of the Year, Nigeria, in Bankers Award 2022. Contempt. Court okays a suit seeking removal of army chief. You have no electoral value even in your local government area. Tinubu fires back at ex-SGF Lawal. LCC lament downgrade of Nigeria's sovereign risk profile. You can see that story on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. Now let's move to the Punch newspaper. Punch is leading with Bauchi Gombe fight over new oil wells. Akomani is in Gombe, late NNPC GMD misled Buhari. Niger Delta scenarios looms, that's according to residents. Matter taking different dimension, Bauchi governor we consult. Commissioner assures stakeholders. You can see that story on page 2. And here we have a photo story with the writer that says Buhari seeks improved security in ECOWAS region. Also on the front page of the Punch, we have Nigeria's telecom subscribers. It's 214 million. You can see that on page 38. And lastly here, we have poor network, INEC to meet NCC telcos on Tuesday. You can see that story on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. And the Nation this morning is leading with ex-depot price hits 225 naira per litre as petrol scarcity persists. Marketers urge NNPCL to stock product for 60 days. Pricing gap widens to 34%. You can see that story on page 6. On page 4, Governors Gbajabiamila, others with Tinubu United Kingdom. How to curtail rising debt profile by DMO. Lastly, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, we have lovers bury newborn alive. You can see that story on page 6 of the Nation. And lastly, let's review The Guardian. Guardian is leading with after 251 days, Abuja Kaduna Rail service resumes amid 6.6 billion naira losses. NRC. Federal government only lost 113 million naira to Abuja Kaduna Railway closure. Fare hike takes effect today. We increased fares due to diesel cost, improved security, says Okiria. Inspector General of Police assures of safety, deploys personnel en route, operational or coaches. Experts insist not safe to travel by train unless there is area surveillance, armed troop patrol. Abuja Kaduna Highway to be completed first quarter of 2023, Minister assures. You can see that on page 6. On page 15, Naira redesign. Any attempt to reduce cash holding will cripple economy. And lastly, on the front page of The Guardian, Serap sues Buhari over failure to probe alleged missing trillions in ecological funds. You can see that on page 4 of The Guardian and the front pages of the dailies. And of course, let's go on a short break. Our guest will be joining us after this break. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I'm Damilola Okunshakin. Joining me in the studio this morning is Mr. Aliu Muhammad. He's the CEO of Magnet Communications, former editor of Daily Times and Concord newspaper. Good morning, Mr. Aliu.
Good morning, Damilola. How are you?
I'm very fine. And first of all, before we move into what's on the front pages this morning, let's talk about the fuel scarcity. What do you think about this? I mean, I read a report this morning that parents now send their children twice to school, or sometimes 3 times in a week to go to school because of the, because of how the buses and cars are queuing at the filling station instead of them being available because of the fuel scarcity.
It's unfortunate that at this stage of our national life, we still go through this very gruesome and unpalatable experience to get fuel to run our lives. To run our lives, because apart from running the car, we are in a country where we don't have regular power supply. You need petrol to power your generator. Diesel is unaffordable. So a lot of companies that before now were using diesel to power their generators have resorted to using petrol. But unfortunately, you can't get the products. The sad aspect of it, and very painful one too, is the fact that nobody in government is telling us what is happening. The closest explanation that I read, which sounds so ridiculous to me, is the one that came from an official of NNPC that some bad roads in Lagos is the cause of the current fuel scarcity nationwide. How can you have bad roads in Lagos causing fuel scarcity in Kano, in Port Harcourt? Are there bad roads in Port Harcourt too? When government officials don't have anything to say about a sad situation, they should just keep quiet. That sounds so ridiculous that a government official will come out to say that some bad roads in some parts of Lagos are responsible for the ineffective distribution of petrol all over the country. How can bad roads in Lagos affect the distribution of petrol to Ibadan, Ekiti, Akure, Abuja? There are depots there now. I mean, people should be sensible when you want to explain a bad situation that has been created by government's inefficiency and attempt to increase the price of the products. If you want to increase the price of the products, for God's sake, go ahead and do, and make the products available. We know they want to increase the price. They should just go ahead and increase the price. You cannot have this kind of situation in another clime. There will be major crisis. We are in election period. A party and government that is campaigning for people's votes. That same party and government are the ones punishing the same people that they are begging to vote for them. Does that make sense? I think that by now they should be doing everything possible to pet Nigerians, beg them. Beg as in, if you look at the performances of this party and government in the last 8 years, it is enough to say no to them. But they are shooting themselves in the foot by creating a fuel scarcity that is worsening the purchasing power of the people. A lot of people can't go out of their homes to work. A lot of people can't move around. You just spoke about parents not taking their children to school. Yes, if the school is a distance to the house, you need a car to take them. They will have to go by bus. Do you know that transport fares has gone up by over 200%.
Yeah.
So for people who are struggling to survive, how will they accommodate that extra increase? We must sit down in this country, and in whatever we are planning, we must always consider the plight of the masses, those who have not stolen money from government, those who are working hard to make their money, those who are on 30,000 naira per month. Now, at most filling stations, the cheapest fuel per liter that you get is 250 naira. For a man that is on 30,000 naira per month, minimum wage, and the transport fares has gone up by over 50%, how will it cope? There is no corresponding increase in his salary. It is a very sad situation that if it is not curtailed, we may have a very bad situation on our hands. We are looking at election in January. Damilola, I don't know what is going on.
Let's move away from that and talk about this one. Then, Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria and the Nigerian Medical Association the weekend painted a grim picture of the health sector in the country. They said that they will need 12,000 doctors annually to adequately address health problems in the country. That's the Medical and Dental Consultants Association. Meanwhile, Nigerian Medical Association noted that it will take at least 25 years to meet the ideal target of 333,334 doctors to address, the health needs of Nigerians. I mean, in other words, Nigerian doctors, they are going
they are fleeing the country. No, they are fleeing the country every day because the foreign countries, they are going to recognize their worth than our country. A nurse is earning twice the salary of a university lecturer abroad. Twice that amount. That's what a nurse is earning abroad. Not to talk of a medical doctor. If you are in a country where you have qualified as a doctor and you are being treated with kid gloves and you have the opportunity to go out of Nigeria to earn far above what you are earning in Nigeria, will you stay? You won't. You have to go. And every year, every month, you are faced with a strike which will also affect your salary. At the end of the day, the government will tell you that because you went on strike, your salary will not be paid. The same thing with ASU. Because ASU was on strike, the salary of the lecturers will not be paid. And a lot of people are going out of Nigeria in droves. So we created the situation that we have found ourselves. We must appreciate human resources in our country, because especially in those vital areas. Go to Lasut, you will see one doctor treating more than 30 patients. It is not so abroad. In some health centers in the UK, you see at any time, you see more than 10, 15 doctors attending to patients at the same time. But here you see one doctor to almost 30 patients. Number one, that doctor will not be patient enough to attend to each of the patients that has been assigned to him, because he needs to attend to a lot of people. But abroad, you have at any time 20 patients. One is coming out of a doctor's office, the other is going. The doctor will give you enough time and attend to you in such a way that you will have some respite. But here, you go in to meet a doctor, he wants to attend to you within 2 minutes. The next thing he does is to send you out to go and do a test. Whether you need that test or not does not matter. At the end of the day, you come back with the result. He will tell you that, no, this is what you should go and do. Go and do scan somewhere. That's the cycle that we go through in most hospitals here. I have a friend who had typhoid and he was being treated for pneumonia and almost died until he went abroad. where he was told that he had no pneumonia, but typhoid fever. But unfortunately, those doctors there too are not exposed to the nature of the treatment of typhoid. So they had to call a Nigerian doctor who has treated a lot of malaria patients in Nigeria before he came. He was the one that treated that, my friend. So we must take issues that affect the lives of our citizens very seriously. Otherwise, we'll continue to lose not only doctors, nurses will follow suit, and lecturers will go.
Now, according to Nigerian Medical Association, we only have 24,000 medical doctors registered in practice in Nigeria. So that's like 8,000 to one doctor to 8,000 patients in Nigeria.
I just said
how long will it take for us to be able to solve this?
For as long as we continue to ignore the need to value our professionals. If you have professionals, treat them well, give them their dues, give them what will make them be dedicated to what they have been employed to do. But for as long as you don't do that, it will even take more years to achieve the result of having the kind of number of doctors to attend to patients in Nigeria. Because, you see, even as a young journalist, when I was sent to the UK for training in 1987, I got a very small car there. From the one that I got there, I was given a car and given a compass to help me navigate my way through the UK then. But in Nigeria of today, a young graduate will have to sweat to even get a room apartment to stay, not to talk of buying a car. So we must have a deliberate plan to encourage our professionals across the table, not just doctors. Once you are a professional, you must be treated fairly. Because if we are not careful, all our professionals will run away from Nigeria, and we will continue to lament that they are going there, and we won't be able to do anything about it. Look at doctors now. Lecturers have joined. Most of the lecturers that went on strike during the ASU strike were lecturing at private universities. A lot of them got employed there in the private universities, and they didn't come back to the federal government-owned universities. I know about 4 or 5 of them that got employed there because they have a better salary scale for them there. They had accommodation, they had official cars, which they didn't have when they were in government institutions. So the government, there must be a deliberate plan to make life comfortable for not only university lecturers and doctors, but all professionals. When I was young, once you graduate from secondary school, you are entitled to a car. It was an automatic job. But now you have to struggle. A man that stayed at home for 5 years before becoming or before getting employed as a doctor is not getting his dues. And he has the opportunity to leave Nigeria for any part of the world and get better treatment. He will go now. If you are in his shoe, you will go. So we must have a plan to make life good for all our professionals here. Otherwise, we'll continue to lose them for other institutions abroad.
According to PDP's presidential candidate ATIKU and Labour Party's presidential Peter Obi, they said security and proper education are required to pull Nigerians out of poverty. Is that really enough?
It is not enough. You see, when I was growing, I'll continue to refer to that time. There was this lower class, middle class, upper class. Now there is no upper class, there is no middle. Middle class now are those who have access to government money. They've stolen a lot of government money, and they are the ones spending. But there is nothing really like a middle class. everybody has been reduced to the lowest class in Nigeria today, and that is unfortunate. The worst part of it is that the people that used to be in the lower class are the ones that cannot even feed now. They are not allowing those who have been relegated to the lower class, they are not allowing them to rest by requesting for 2,000, 1,000 every day to feed. It is that bad. If you go out, you see people now picking food from dustbin. In the days of NPN, somebody, I was into Marudiko, said they said there was poverty in Nigeria. He said people have not started picking food from the dustbin. They are doing it now. Have you ever gone to parties and look at your back and see people waiting to pick the food that you couldn't finish? It is happening in Nigeria today. Somebody is just there to ensure that you've not finished your food. As soon as you leave your table, they will pick it, put it in a nylon, as if they are taking it home. No, they are taking it to their children to eat. That is not good enough. You see, like I was discussing with somebody off the camera, there must be a deliberate plan to rescue Nigeria from poverty. Because the level of poverty in Nigeria today is so bad that even those who used to be referred to as big boys are now begging. In those days, in about a month ago, somebody who was in government sent messages to us that he needed assistance. That was somebody who was a government official in this country. So we have to be careful the way we allow poverty to reign in our midst. I know poverty is a weapon by politicians to ensure that people fall in line with their dictates. But then, the people that you have refused to feed today may feed on you tomorrow. That is what our politicians must learn. They will consume you. You saw what happened during EndSARS. People went into halls where food was, stores where food was stockpiled, through the roof to get to the stockpiled food in some parts of the country. They busted into custom stores to get food. You know now, during the COVID crisis, there were food that were sent to various states, which some states refused to share. During EndSARS, people accessed them by whatever means, and it became a major activity in Nigeria. They started looking at warehouses.
I think we got a time when they went to bust growing for this fertilizer factory.
People even started stealing Okada that were bought by some politicians to be distributed to their constituents. So for as long as we allow poverty to continue to reign in our midst, we will get consumed one day. We are getting very close to that point.
All right, lastly, let's talk about this one. Babache Lawal, that's this thing. He leads a group of Northern Christian politicians. He had in a statement in a recent television interview adopted presidential candidate of Labour Party, that's Mr. Peter Obi. Yes. And of course, presidential candidate of APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, fired back at his former political ally and the former secretary to the governor of the government of the federation. He said for downplaying his influence ahead of next year's general election. What do you think about this?
You see, I read something before I came online. Before I came online now, Babache is saying that Tinubu and Akonde influenced disappointment. You see, if somebody has been good to you, without being political now, if you claim that somebody has been good to you, must you return that good with evil? I'm not saying that you must support him, but if you are going to be against him, it shouldn't be that open. So much so that you are throwing tirades at him, you are accusing him of one crime or the other. There must be a level that you get to, and you apply some decorum in dealing with somebody who has been of help to you in your life. Like the Yorubas will say, a rainfall can make you to go back into the same house that you have gone to before for protection against that rain. Who says that Babachir may not need the help of Tinubu again in his life? So there must be some level of decorum in dealing with people that has helped you in your life. You must not drag that person out in the kind of style that Babachir is doing. I read that in the morning. It said Tinubu Akonde played important roles in his appointment as the SGF. I don't think he should do what he's doing now.
But don't you think it's normal for politicians, for politicians to follow and unfollow?
There is a different, I said that I'm not saying that he must follow Tinubu, but you don't descend as low as abusing him, calling him a criminal, drug addict. I've read those statements credited to Babachir. You don't do that to somebody who has helped you in life. My conscience will not allow me to treat anybody that has helped me the way Babachir is treating Tinubu. If I don't know what to say and I'm not supporting him, I will keep quiet. He should just keep quiet. If somebody has lifted your life in any way, you don't come to the open to abuse him. Who says you won't go back to him? But politicians are shameless. Tomorrow, he could crawl back to Tinubu and start begging. I can assure you that it will happen very soon. It will happen, and I will remind you that I said it there that it will happen. They are shameless, a lot of them. I don't want to mention names. They've gone from one party, APC, to PDP, PDP back to APC, even a presidential candidate. Because of what to eat, which Yorubas call atenide, the politicians will do that. So don't take what Babachir is saying seriously. He will call back to his beneficiaries and beg, and they will bring him. Politics is about chop I chop in Nigeria. It is not about ensuring that the country is good for everybody, but they ensure that the country is good for a class of people who will fly in private jets, afford money to spend on frivolous birthdays, on rented yachts and all that. But what is wrong in ensuring that all Nigerians are able to put food on their table every day? I have just returned from a country that faced genocide 25 years ago. You'll be surprised that I moved around at night. 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I dare not go out of my house in Lagos once it is after 9. Because even in broad daylight, they are kidnapping. So what will you be finding outside around 2 a.m.? That means they will just kill you. That is my country. But in another country, I was moving around all through the night, and nobody stopped me. There were policemen on the road. They just parked their car and their cars and were monitoring situations. Nobody stopped us. When will our country grow to that level, Damilola? It is painful that some of us who has experienced good life, those days you will buy luncheon voucher in the universities. I don't know if you experienced that. About 25 or 50 sheets. You just tear one, you have lunch. Tear one, you have dinner. The following morning, you tear another one. 25 kobo. When I finished secondary school, the following Monday, I started working at First Bank. When are we going to get back to that level in Nigeria? A graduate will stay at home for 5 years. He won't get a job. And when he gets one, he is treated like a slave. We must grow this country. We should abandon sentiments. Nigeria is not doing well. We need a leader that will sit down and solve the problems of Nigeria. reduce stealing. You know what is going on the ICs? Stealing of crude oil, running into billions and billions of dollars that are going into private pockets. Somebody told me that if you are able to change the colors of the naira, you can't change the colors of dollars. That they are not making money in naira, but in dollars. You see people in private jets locking down a whole state anytime there is an event. And flights won't be able, commercial flights may not even be able to come in. And nobody is talking. You can't do that in some other environments. People will ask questions. How did you get money to have a fleet of private jets? Are you running an airline? No. And these are people not known or attached to a particular industry, but just politicians milking fat on the economy of the country. And the people are the masses. They are the mercy of these people. So we have to sit down and get things right. If there will be election in this country next year. I say if, because we've had rumors, I don't know how far that is true, that some people are plotting against having an election in Nigeria. But if they do that, it's like cutting their faces to spite their nose. We must have an election because it is the only accepted means of changing a government in Nigeria. Thank you, Damilola.
All right, let's end this on a lighter note this morning with Mr. and Mrs. And the first person speaking this morning is Mr. It says, your friend said she knows the weakness of a man. What weakness? I hope you don't share our views because I'm different. I'm not the type of man that says something now and say the opposite in the bedroom. And Mrs. replied, do you mean no putting that in writing? Do you mind putting that in writing?
Well, every man must change his tunes in the bedroom, no matter how strong you are. So the man doesn't have to write it down. What will make him to change will make him to change inside the bedroom. I won't say more than that.
Thank you, Mr. Ali, for joining us this morning.
Welcome.
And of course, he's now the CEO of Magnet Communications. For my editor of Daily Times and Concord newspaper, it just reviewed and analyzed some of the stories on the front pages with us this morning. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. My name is Damlola Ukushaki. Have a lovely week.